Today, we're going to talk about what might be one of my most important free-to-play value hunting videos. We're going to show how we are pulling down one or more legendary materials per day. That's right, per day, farming in Heroic Anthem KvK. Stick around for ways to save ridiculous amounts of action points, get ridiculous amounts of experience and speed-ups. Yup, there's some value to be found, and we're going to share everything with you. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, a sponsored content creator for Rise of Kingdoms, and we'll be flashing on the screen before your eyes here reports where we are AOE Barb Farming. And yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with AOE Barb Farming, but when you enter in Heroic Anthem, the barbarians drop materials. Now, this one report, this cost me 90 action points, and I pulled down, I forget the exact number, between 34 and 36 gray materials. In a full day of farming in Heroic Anthem KvK, I pulled down anywhere between 1 to 3. That's right, as many as 3 legendary materials in a single day of AOE Barb Farming. And I mean, geez, if I told you you could get legendary commander sculptures from battling barbarians, you'd be pretty freaking excited. And yeah, you get a lot of stats from materials. So let's talk in this video about everything you need to know to get ridiculous value, not only battling barbarians, but we have used the exact same technique to AOE Barb Farm Kahars as well, saving literally thousands of action points battling down Kahars. If you like Rise of Kingdoms guides that help you get value and smash your enemies, hey, consider smashing that subscribe button for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos. This video is very important because now not only are you getting materials from battling barbarians, but in the recent update, you also can go in and get crystals. So AOE Barb Farming is the meta. It is the best way to spend your action points in Heroic Anthem KvK and to get absolutely astonishing value. And I get that before you could run around and spend lots of action points to get lots of gems, and that was very good. But what we have today is a way to spend a small amount of action points to get a huge amount of materials and speed-ups. And although some amount of those speed-ups are for healing, I'm going to make the argument that healing speed-ups are pretty good these days, and there's a couple things we need to talk about. 2 ideas. First, well, we'll start with the first one, which is AOE Barb Farming. What I just did is AOE Barb Farming, area of effect damage. I'm using a commander like Esong to do area of effect damage that hits other barbarians, then they attack me, and I don't have to spend any action points on them. That's cool, and that's good. The other piece of the puzzle is called Barbarian Chaining. Barbarian Chaining is where you use one barbarian to close the distance between another barbarian or a group of barbarians, using that area of effect damage to move very far across the map. And we'll show you Barbarian Chaining in just a moment. We defeated that one barbarian. Chaining is where I would move my march now up toward this other barb. And so I'm not just AOE Barb Farming. Now I am also Barbarian Chaining. Oh, wait. Yeah, there we go. We got him. The challenge with Barbarian Chaining is what you just saw. The barbarians don't just stand still. That is both good and bad. Barbarians are going to move in accordance with their physical position on the map. In other words, a barbarian will only move so far from its starting point. The challenge with Barbarian Chaining is that you don't ever know what the barbarian's starting point is. So there will be a radius. Let's say the starting point for this barbarian is right here. You can see my pointer. There is going to be a radius that you can move that barbarian, but if you go too far, the barbarian is going to leash back to its starting point. You can imagine a physical leash from whatever that imaginary center point is for the barb, and it's going to go back toward that center point. Now, we know, to give another example of barb chaining, that I can take this barb somewhere around here because it started somewhere in this area. But the problem is that unless you've been watching where the barbs are going, you don't exactly know where they're starting, and so you could have the barbarian leash, which is bad news. You'll lose some efficiency. But the thing about Heroic Anthem Kingdom versus Kingdom is that because these barbarians cost so many action points, even if you only smash 2 barbarians, 2 for the price of 1 is still better honor if you're battling the highest level barbarians here. It's still better honor than you would get going and doing the highest level of fort. That's right. You're going to get more honor per action point spent just battling 2 level 51 plus barbarians than you will going around and rallying forts. Now, here I have an interesting choice. I can try to get this barbarian up over here, but I don't know if I can take this level 51 all the way down to that level 51. So as we explain this, we'll show you that maneuver. Normally, I personally take the safe play. I try to do what is more guaranteed or more likely to land me a chain. I'm happy to spend more action points because honestly, I have a hard time spending enough action points doing this method. And yeah, we'll give you a few combos beyond just Richard I and Isong, which is a very good combination for this. So now we're going to try to move the barb, and I want to explain an idea here, which is that as you move the barbarian around, they are going to reposition themselves. If you move too far in one direction or too fast, sometimes the barbarian will have to walk to catch up, as I just showed you now. So having too much march speed can actually be a bad thing sometimes, because if you move too fast, you have to actually run backwards, or if the barbarian's not in contact with you for 5 seconds, it's going to run away and leash, and you basically have lost your continued chain. So this chain is actually looking really good, and we'll try to push the bounds over here and try to take this barb all the way up to here. For the record, I don't think it's going to work, but for the purpose of this video, maybe we'll go to this 55. For the purpose of this video, we'll give it a try. So I would argue that although march speed is really nice between big packs of barbarians when you need to, get to another big grouping or even a small grouping, the march speed is nice. March speed is not the stat that you want, and we will go over some of the equipment that I actually think makes a huge difference, and I'm impressed with the design of some of the equipment. Maybe it's just chance for AOE Barb Farming. Now, you saw something really important there that just happened, which is that when your rage bar starts to get full, something you'll notice is what you really want is your E-Song to do the damage that pulls in more barbs, okay? So here's the perfect example. My rage bar was full, my Richard I uses ability, and boom, on my next normal attack, I got my area of effect damage. You want to be really careful as you're repositioning and these barbs get really low on health, that you start to move them before they get too low. Otherwise, you'll end up killing them on the walk, and you can also lose the chain. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Let's start to go over here. This is some amazing value. One thing I'm going to try to do to continue the chain is I actually am now avoiding these barbs over here, which might sound a little bit crazy, but the reason I'm trying to avoid them is that I want to be able to chain up over this way and connect these two barbs. Well, if I aggro them now, I'm not going to be able to make that walk. And one other major mistake that you can make while AOE barb farming and barb chaining is that you try to pull in too many barbs at a time instead of strategically thinking about how you're going to use the barbarians to walk your way around the map. So in this case, I don't think I'm going to avoid all these barbs. I'm just going to go for it. And a part of the reason that this is more achievable for me at this point is that I have really great Heroic Anthem technology, and I'm using only mediocre gear. I'll show you what my gear is in a moment that does plus barbarian damage, but if you went all in on infantry gear, which I think is a fine choice for an account anyways, the epic infantry gear has a lot of plus barbarian damage, like a ton of it. Let me just show you real quick. I think I got a couple seconds to show that to you while we work on those barbs. The epic infantry equipment, look at this, plus 5% damage to barbarians. If we go to the legs, does this have barbarian damage? The cavalry one does. Okay. Infantry 1, does this have damage to barbarians? It doesn't. However, let's look at the gloves over here. The gloves have damage to barbarians. The chest piece, does this? I don't think this has damage to barbarians. It does. The chest piece has damage to barbarians. I mean, you get the idea. This does not, though. So there's a lot of damage to barbarians on infantry gear. So if you were working on infantry gear anyways, oh gosh, I got really low. So here's an example, perfect example. My Richard I skill has already fired off. The second my march stands still, I'm going to fire off the Isong AOE. And this is a problem because I might just lose that barbarian that's down there. Let's see if we get this. I might have walked too far from that 44. Ooh, we nailed it. Crushed it. Crushed it. So much value. Okay, and you can see just this morning, I've killed 93 barbs, and I'm not even like full-time AOE barb farming. I will just leave my Richard I out, and I will, throughout the day, when I just like am able to look in, battle a couple barbarians that are next to each other, and then send them toward the next pack. And then for a couple seconds when I can look in, battle a couple more barbarians, smash the next pack, walk over to the next one. And that's the way I'm sort of approaching this. And this, by the way, has led to a ridiculous amount of honor gain. We're currently 4th. And I had only 350,000 action points at the start of this KvK to get a placement here. I mean, look, I'm pushing Maverick over here, okay? I'm pushing Maverick's score, and he's got, like, endless action points because he's just gem it, right? So something about this is working. So let me just take out this barb. I actually can't believe how good this barb chain has been for this video. I was not intending to do such a long barb chain, but we'll look at what value we got. And you have a lot of choices to make when you're barb chaining. One thing you can think about is, do I want to just get these barbs and then start a new chain, which is very time efficient, or do I want to be action point efficient, and do I want to take this barb and run it up over here and say, you know what? Time is not the issue. I need to save my action points. I think that chances are the issue for you is going to be time. And this is what makes Heroic Anthem AOE Barb Farming so OP. And those aren't my words. Those are the words of a nearly free-to-play player, Tripod, who is one of our data-oriented players in Kingdom 75. You may remember... Oh, I lost the barb. Okay, good example of that. I walked too fast, I went too far, I lost the barb, I lost the chain. Now, that could be because it's leashing. It could be that I just took it too far, and that was the risk there. Normally, I take the safer play, right? And I just go for these. And honestly, the value is still there, that I should just battle all 3 of these barbarians. And that's the thing I want to try to instill into you, is that the value of AOE Barb Farming is so insane that even if you don't get perfect chains, you just smash a few barbs, send your march home, refresh it, send out a new one, and go battle something, that is good enough, and the value is so high that you should just do that anyways. AOE Barb Farming, it is... I mean, literally, if I had all day to do this with multiple marches, I would not run out of action points, even with the small amount that I have left, and I would be pulling down probably 3+ legendary materials a day, which is insane. Like, it's just insane. And it's a lot of micromanagement. That's like full-time watching the screen, paying attention to what's happening. In a perfect world, I could chain this right now, and I'd take this all the way up to here, swing it around. I'm not going to make you watch that. I just want to get these 3 and then not watch it anymore. There we go. Let's look at the last report. So this was, if my march was fresh from the city, 100 action points, 90 since I've been doing this for a while. And we pulled down thousands of crystals. We pulled down, oh, there's 50 gems. We pulled down hours of speed ups. And although some reports you get very few materials, other reports you get ridiculous amounts of materials. I found that it's averaging about 1 material per barb. So you need somewhere around, I think it's like 256 or so barbs to get the equivalent of kind of 1 legendary material. Now, there are some advanced ideas for AOE barb farming that we need to talk about as well that I think a lot of people ignore, and this is my public service announcement. If you see someone AOE barb farming and you're going to bring 4 or 5 marches to the party to just like smash some barbs in the field, please, please do the AOE barb farmer the favor of not attacking the wrong barb, okay? You can see my Richard I is looking at this barb. Whichever barb the AOE barb farmer is normal attacking is the one that you can attack without messing up the rest of their chain. Because what happens, and I've got some reports saved where this happened, but what happens is if somebody else shows up and they start battling one of the barbs that you have AOE barbed, or I guess AOE aggroed, then it will turn to that player and you will lose all credit for that barb. And the funny thing about AOE barb farming, I don't understand why this is the case, but I've found that like 95% of the time people attack the wrong barb, even though there's only 2 barbs here. Right? Like, how hard could it be? There's only 2 barbs. There's a 50% chance that you help me rather than hurt me. People always attack the wrong one. So when I have these 2 barbs here, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second, the thing that you want to do if you're helping out an AOE barb farmer, and dude, I love when somebody helps out. It saves me time. Time is the critical factor for me. If they were to attack this barb with 5 marches or 2 marches or 1 march, I would lose it. It's gone to me. It's dead. I don't get any points, no credit. Whereas if they attack the one I'm normal attacking, which you can see, like, there's a green arrow, like, pointing to where I'm going, then yes, that is going to help me. We'll kill that one faster. And then you would wait until I aggro the next one, right? So you'd wait until I march my way over here, and then boom, you'll attack that top one, and that's the way that you would do that, right? I'm up to 98 kills, right? And it's an approximation, and some of my materials that I'm getting are bones. This is fine. But let's go now and talk just about the pairings that you can use, because it makes a huge difference. And look at this. Like, I don't even need to watch this. I'll take one step down. And by the way, micro adjustments here are the name of the game. If I want to aggro this barb, I want to move the least amount possible to aggro the barb so I don't risk losing this other barb, which might be actually leashed all the way back over here and have been lucky for me that it was over here that I could start to chain it over this way. So enough about that. Let's go actually look at the pairings here. So there's several really good ones that you can do. The reason that Richard I is working so successfully is that Richard I obviously has a huge amount of healing, reduces the damage that you take, and has just a massive amount of sustain. The E-Song has the biggest area of effect in the game, hugely effective for AOE Barb Farming. There are, however, other commanders that do area of effect damage, and even peacekeepers that you can use. For example, I have been successfully AOE Barb Farming when I do 2 marches at a time with Minamoto primary and Theodora secondary. Although her area of effect is smaller, it's still very good, and it's full circle, which makes it very, very easy to be AOE Barb Farming. There are other commanders that you can use. I've seen people attempting to use, for example, combinations like Ethelfled with Cyrus, which sounds crazy, but the Cyrus has a circle area of effect when he's attacked, and that can aggro other barbs. So you use Ethelfled, or whatever your primary peacekeeper is, to hit one, stand next to another one, and then boom, inevitably at some point, you have your area of effect damage proc. The thing I prefer about E-Song and Theodora is that you know exactly when that's going to happen, because it's the active skill of the second commander. I did try to do this with Zenobia. Zenobia has healing, but not enough tankiness to make this actually work. I have heard that Ethelfled with double C is a great second march for doing this if you're using Richard I, E-Song as your primary. If you don't have Richard I, even at 5511, and that's all it takes to do this, by the way. But if you didn't have Richard I at 5511, then okay, you would use Ethelfled and you could use your E-Song secondary. I like that pairing. I've even heard people using just raw, solid infantry commanders, like raw damage from Guan Yu primary, and then another infantry commander like Alexander the Great secondary, and you're counting on angling your area of effect damage from the Guan Yu to hit the other target. It's a little more of a pain in the butt, but let's be honest. If you don't have the technology in Heroic Anthem KvK to sustain like we're doing over here, which is a little bit crazy, then you just find 2 barbs right next to each other, and 2 for 1 is still insane value. It's still insane value, and you spend your action points so slowly, you're still never going to run out of action points. I mean, you could, but it's unlikely. Now, looking into the equipment, here's what I'm currently using, and I'll showcase a little bit of what I think a most insane set would be. So we've got just some infantry gear with barbarian damage, and it's pretty basic. Not all of it's special talented. And in many cases, I've got march speed going here, but I think damage to barbarians is better. I'm just using leftover equipment at the moment. And in general, I want to put like as much attack and damage to barbarians as I can get. So I've got the infantry breastplate. That is giving me a lot of infantry stats and 4% damage to barbarians. I've got the ranger's trousers. There's another 4% damage to barbarians. If I had those 2 epics I was showing you earlier, the boots, that would give me, I think, 6.5% damage to barbarians, as well as some infantry stats. Same is true of the gloves. That would be much better than Windswept, although Windswept is a fine starting point. I do happen to have the Sakura Fubuki. I could use a special talented one, but I leave all my main gear on my Canyon team. And the Savage Totem actually is really good. In fact, so good that maybe in this video we'll go special talented. I've been like waiting for a reason to go special talent this thing, an excuse, a video. So why don't we go and do that in just a moment. But if I was, to upgrade a little bit of this gear, obviously you use kind of the best accessories that you've got that do lots of damage. That is obviously helpful. But the damage to barbarians is almost more value than the raw stats. So hunt for the damage to barbarians and you'll be in really great shape. So just to showcase exactly what you would do if you didn't have an E-Song, by the way, You have, look at this, perfect. All three of these barbs are together. I spend a little AP. Oh, one of them moved. So it takes a little bit more maneuvering, but anywhere that my Richard I AoE would hit, a Guan Yu AoE would have hit too, or an Ethelfled AoE would have hit too. You don't even need to have Esong, but this is one of many reasons why Esong is just an incredible first project. And again, you see how little time that took? I can set that, I can forget that, and just collect the loot. And it is astonishing how much loot I am collecting. These barbarians today happen to be a not-so-great example of how many materials you can get, but the most materials I've seen is you can get double green, which is 8 materials from a single barb, which is really nice. Really nice. Now, I've been doing just insane amounts of this AOE barb farming, but I want to emphasize, even small amounts are value, and look at that. This barb leashed. Remember how I was saying you want to move the barbs the least amount possible because you don't know what their actual starting point was? This one leashed back over here, and sometimes I find that you can go back and get the barb again. Like, I bet you I could move this down here and recollect this barb and bring him back to... Oh, he's walking away. He's walking away! Anyways, it's the little things. I go incrementally here so as to not lose the barbs that I have, and I probably got this barb back in the fold now, and we'll get that value. Whew. Let's go snap our fingers here and craft a special talented Savage Totem, shall we? Oh, P.S. I am still AOE Barb Farming. I haven't actually gone to craft the Savage Totem yet. But if there's an event like Lohar's Trial, look at this. I'm getting all these bone necklaces on top just for doing what I was already doing. Just in the last day, I've pulled down 435 bone necklaces just battling barbs. So here's a whole bunch of extra speed-ups. It's a small amount of speed-ups, to be perfectly honest. A small amount of gems, but hey, I'll take the extra speed-ups and gems. Seems pretty good for doing something I was doing anyways. Oh, and while we're here, one more trick for getting those Kahars to be free is that if there's a barbarian outside your city, you attack the barbarian, your area of effect damage pulls in the Kahar, and then the Kahar is aggroed. So instead of 190 or 200 action points to battle the Kahar, then boom, you do it with the AoE damage on a barb. It's 90 action points. That's a big savings too. And I do think that for this technique, it is very helpful to already be T5 and to have your infantry tech maxed out. Not just your base tech, not your Heroic Anthem tech. And the further you get with Heroic Anthem tech, the easier this gets. So you may feel like, man, Chisgule, I can't do this at the start of Heroic Anthem KvK. That is normal. But as you progress further and further, and as your Heroic Anthem technology gets better and better, then it gets easier and easier to go and do this technique. Obviously, you would focus on the infantry stats, which are really solid. And also, man, the damage increase to barbarians, 70%. That's like 7 of those Savage Totems that are, obviously not special talented, but it's really good how much, even just a little bit, even a little bit of this tech goes. So now let's actually get to crafting. All right, our Richard I is on his way home, but I actually have enough bone. I could just make one of these things outright. So I should just go and do that, honestly. And then we'll special talent infantry. And I really should have more of these. I just did not realize how many of these I had lying around. I could stop my Richard I. I have so much bone lying around. We just make a bunch of these. Savage Totem, looking for special talent. I'm going to go infantry to put it on Richard I. So here we go. Quick Forge. 228 bone. Sure. Fire it up. What do we get? Nothing. Okay. Dismantle. Savage Totem. Dismantled. Forge. We'll go for it again. Savage Totem. I got 15 patterns. Plenty of attempts here to go. And no luck. Okay. Hashtag pulling a Chisgule. We'll dismantle it. And try again. Accessory. Savage Totem. No whammies. And whammies. Okay. Hashtag pulling a Chisgule. Dismantle it. I hate my life. Not really, I love my life. But OMG. Okay. Savage Totem. Fourth time's a charm, right? Isn't that 4th time's a charm is the expression? It is a charm. It is a charm. Infantry stats. We will go and equip this in a bit. I need to take stock of how much bone I have in my inventory because, yeah, I don't see why I wouldn't have every one of my barbarian marches with one of these running around because 13% extra damage to barbarians is really good, or even just the 10% seems quite exceptional. And by the way, for those of you keeping track, there is an achievement for having a whole bunch of things special talented. Accessories is the hardest thing to do. This is the easiest way to special talent a bunch of accessories. Oh, I even have Lohar bone necklaces. Yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you'd get that achievement. And you're welcome, by the way, for those of you who are pushing that achievement. Now you know. Knowing is half the battle. If you enjoyed this video about how to get ridiculous amounts of legendary equipment, I really do feel that in Heroic Anthem, I know people. Gems are king. Gems are king. Unless you're pay to win, in which case the materials is like straight better. But gems are king. And in absence of the gems, this is the next best thing, by far, to AOE Barb Farm in Heroic Anthem. For all those reasons we were describing, it's way more efficient than ever. And you can literally farm up a legendary material or more in a single day, just running around, smashing some barbs, even if you don't think about it and you do 2 at a time, and then you got to run back to your city. 2 for 1 is still insane value. If you enjoyed this video, do me a huge favor, throw a like on here. I know this is not like the most sexy topic in the world, but it's such an important one. Honestly, this might be one of the most important videos that I make in the first part of this year, because the amount of value that you can get in Heroic Anthem KvK, that is, by the way, fully untapped by a lot of players, is simply astonishing. Consider subscribing so you don't miss a thing, and until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom. And seriously, I'm nonstop AOE barb farming. It's addicting. We may need to start AOE barb farming anonymous, because once you start doing this, it's like hard to stop. It's really, well, you'll see.